For most folks on the autism spectrum, it's day in and day out, consistently having the different things that they have to try to manage and cope in order to fit into our society.
Hi, welcome back to Conversations. My name is Emma,
And I'm Ginny.
and today we're interviewing Kara Medrano, who's expert on autism.
Seems like today all of us know someone with autism. I have a son who's 20 now, and there's still so much that we all need to learn and can learn.
Let's educate ourselves and talk to Miss Kara. Welcome to the podcast.
We're very excited to have you, in part because of this great topic, important topic, also because you're Emma's sister, and not only is she my co-host, but just such a capable person. So I imagine you are the same. So we're glad to
Thank
have your
you.
expertise today.
Today's topic is special education, specifically autism. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background and how you decided to go with that for a career.
Yeah, so my background is in special education, specifically adapted special ed. So that is for kids with moderate to profound disabilities. And then I also have a minor in early childhood development. And then I went on to get my master's degree also in special ed. And then I got a graduate certificate in autism spectrum disorders. So that's kind of my
Wow.
educational background as it relates to special ed and autism.
So what drew you to the field?
So it actually goes back to the third grade. I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher, but I attended public school in third grade. And we had a student that was from Lebanon that was in my class. And he needed a lot of support. And he was brand new to the country. And the IEP process takes a little while to get going. And so he was in my third grade class, and I ended up being like his one-on-one buddy. And then kind of ever since then, it just kind of snowballed. A couple of years later, I was homeschooled and we were looking for volunteer opportunities. And I started working with Allegro Foundation, which is an organization that works with kids with special needs, providing dance and movement. And those were in the school system. So I actually got to go into public school special education settings. And this is for me. And then fast forward a couple of years from that, our church had a special needs ministry, and I started volunteering with that. And I actually became the special needs coordinator when I was 18. And so that just kind of like slowly got a little deeper and a little deeper into the field. And the more that I did, the more this is where my heart is. This is where I'm supposed to teach.
That actually became part of our entire family because my mom said, you know what? Why don't we just bring the whole family to volunteer? Which was great.
I would have kids that I would babysit who had autism or whatever, and like my siblings would like hang out with them too. Or once I started teaching in the public schools, my sisters would come with my mom, and they would be like the mystery reader or whatever. So that had become like a full family affair.
Kind of like how we're roping all our family and friends into doing the podcast.
Exactly, just like that. That's right.
So let's talk about autism a little bit. I have a son on the spectrum who's 20. I have a friend whose son was not diagnosed until he was 30.
Oh, wow.
Because, 30 years ago wasn't as common a diagnosis. So what are some common traits? You have a specialty in this of people on the spectrum that you see.
So most of the common characteristics can really be fit into like 3 or 4 main categories. The first one is going to be that social interaction and communication difficulties. And while it's going to look different for each and every kid, most kids with autism are going to have some way that they struggle socially and or communication. For some kids, it might be really significant. We might have children with autism who do not use any or very little verbal communication as their primary mode of communication. Where we have other kids with autism who communicate verbally quite well, but maybe have some idiosyncrasies or some odd ways of speaking that's maybe not completely normal as compared to their same age peers. It's the same with the social interactions. You might have some kids with autism who like to be in that group setting, but maybe they're more of an observer instead of participating in those social. And then you have other kids who are like Social is not my thing. Like, take me to the other side of the room or take me out of the room. Not that I don't like people, but really it's just too much for me. Repetitive interests and repetitive behaviors is also something that's usually fairly common with people on the autism spectrum. Again, it's going to vary. You're going to hear me say that over and over again because every kid and every adult on the spectrum is so different. But for some kids, their limited interests might be that their one topic is maybe trains or maybe it's automobiles. And that is just really what they like to talk about. They can maybe pull it into other conversations. I have a kid that I love. He is super into travel plans. And so he will ask where you're going. And I'll say, oh, yeah, my mom's going to Italy. And he's like, well, what flights is he taking? Is she going through Chicago O'Hare or is she going to go through JFK? Now, if she goes through JFK, then she's going to have to go to this airport in order to get to that part of Italy because that's just something he's really passionate about. But then I have other kids that maybe have very limited interests and they might not have as much communication about it. So that's kind of your range of your limited interests. Your repetitive behaviors could be what some people would call stimming behaviors. I like to call them self-soothing behaviors because a lot of the times it's helping them with their either emotional or physical regulation when things are difficult. And that kind of ties into our sensitivities. For some kids, any sensory input, they feel too much. So they might be our sensory avoiders. They might be the kids that, their clothes just have to be a certain kind of clothes. And it has to be tagless. It needs to have lay flat seats. It needs to have no seam socks. So those would kind of be like our sensory avoiders. And then you have the kids that are sensory seekers and they cannot get enough. They are the kids that always have their hands digging in something because they really like the texture of the feel art, or they want really big hugs because they like that tight squeeze. Um, but most of our folks that are on the autism spectrum have some level of either sensory sensitivity or sensory seeking because that's just how their body is processing the world around.
I have a question. What are some common misconceptions of autism? Specifically, one that I hear very often is, "Oh, I must be autistic." So many people that I know have made that statement. For instance, if one little thing, like, "Oh, I hate these tags. I think I'm autistic," or something. Like they just take a little bit of knowledge they know and give themselves a diagnosis. How do you feel about that, or how can you kind of break that apart a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, I think all of us at one point of our lives probably have all experienced something that would fit, along the lines of maybe one of those characteristics of autism. I personally hate dealing with crowds. I don't like being around, noises, lots of people, not my jam. Loud noises make me shut down very quickly. I'm sure my children can fill you in on that. Even with them, I'm like, guys, it's too loud. It's too much. We got to calm down. But for a person with autism, it's not just this one little component that maybe sometimes affects their lives. For most folks on the autism spectrum, it's day in and day out, consistently having the different things that they have to try to manage and cope in order to fit into our society. Because unfortunately, we're very much so a society that requires people to fit in more than us accommodating those that might have some differences. So yeah, you might not like tags, but for a person with autism, like that tag might make it so that they cannot focus or function on anything else because they are so overstimulated by that doing anything else is really hard because their body is just so concentrated on it. So yes, we all have points in time in our lives where maybe these things are I might just have a particular interest right now that I'm really excited about. I've watched all the TikToks on, and I've watched all the YouTube videos on, and I've listened to 30 podcasts and read 10 books, and I'm really into it right now. But I'm able to, move on from that to a new topic, or, I can expand on that into other ways. So, yes, we might have those moments, but it's not affecting our lives day in and day out for years and years and years.
That's a good distinction. For people listening who maybe have a child that's autistic or someone close to them, What is the hope for success or progress? Do you think it's optimist to think, oh, they can live, sort of a normal life or they can have a job or get married? Obviously, it's different per person, but are the interventions helping from your perspective?
I think we have so much available to us that really having the diagnosis of autism, I don't think it's like this end of life, like, oh my goodness, from here on out, they're going, to forever be dependent on somebody else and not being able to contribute to society. For some kids, they might need more adult support long term, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't having other ways of being able to contribute. Some kids that I work with that are on the spectrum, I know are gonna go far and they're gonna do lots of awesome and amazing things. I can't wait for my friend that's really into flights. He's probably gonna end up doing something awesome with it. He's gonna like make all of our flight schedules so much better so that we don't have delays or whatever. He's gonna do
Perfect.
something amazing, I'm sure. And then I have other friends that I know that are probably going to need more adult supports, but they're gonna contribute and they're gonna participate in society in different ways that are also gonna be great and also are awesome. It just is gonna look a little different. And part of that too is kind of like, what do they want to do? Not this forced of like, oh, well, you have this diagnosis, so you can only do X. Let's see where your skills are and how can we creatively come up with ways that you can use that now as a teen, now as an adult, to be able to participate in society and not just kind of sit on the sideline and watch life go by you. Um, I just think that it takes practitioners and therapists and parents and teachers kind of working collaboratively and really trying to fit outside of this box of what can we do in order to support these individuals for them to reach their potential. There's a lot out there. It's now just connecting the dots. I think as technology develops, I think that's going to show even more promise for our folks that are on this.
I know this probably also varies with every single individual that you work with, but can you kind of give us and our listeners an idea of what you do to help the kids and adults that you work with?
Yeah. So, my first and foremost thing that I always try to do with any new kid that I am working with or that I'm interacting with or that comes into my classroom, my very first thing that I like to do is set up some kind of connection. And once we have that connection built, um, then we can go much further. My second thing is to always make sure that I have whatever mode of communication that works for them to communicate with me and me to communicate with them. It might not always be the same thing. They might use an AAC device to communicate with me, but maybe I am able to use verbal communication with them. Or it might look like we're both using verbal language and they're using one word, maybe two-word phrases, and I'm having to make sure that instead of speaking in long sentences, I keep it short and sweet. But once we've kind of understand how they communicate with me and I communicate with them, then we're able to really go somewhere. And then my next goal is always to see how can we promote independence, whether that's following the schedule more independently, whether it's independently getting the things that they want or need within the classroom. And of course, it's going to look different for each kid, but really fostering that relationship, fostering the communication, and then lastly, fostering the independence. Those are really my three big goals whenever I'm getting together with my students.
What about just for people who come across autistic individuals, maybe at work, in their family? Are there some techniques for talking to them or strategies of communication that, are more effective than others?
Yeah, so a lot of our persons that are on the autism spectrum have difficulty understanding like colloquialisms or like phrases that don't necessarily translate directly. So things such as "you're the apple of my eye." Well, that might not translate very well. So really keeping our language simple and straightforward, not simple as in they're dumb or they're unable to understand, but just making sure that we are clear and precise in our communication. I also think a big thing that we need to do with any person that we're meeting for the first time, but especially those that have communication difficulties, is really giving them a chance to process what we have said, but also what they want to say in return. I think a lot of times we don't like silence. And so we might keep talking, or we might ask another question, or we might fill in. And really, they might have had something great to say, or they had something that they wanted to say. We didn't allow enough pause for them to process and to respond. So, really making sure that we're giving that other person time so that we can have that back and forth conversation, not assuming, oh, they didn't respond right away. I need to fill this awkwardness. It's not necessarily awkwardness. It's just that they need that moment. I think that's something that will really help foster and promote that back and forth relationship is if we give them time and space to be able to respond.
Kara, you have been given a very special talent and heart to do what you do. What inspires you to do what you do with the stress that may come with it, if any? Let me speak for yourself. But how do you keep doing what you do and loving your job?
For me, I really love seeing the progress over time. Sometimes it's really small. I have one kid that I've been working with for 10 years. So I have been the ups, the downs, the in between, major life changes with their family, major life changes for them. Um, but to like see that overall progress of like when we first met, this is where you were. And now look at where we are. I mean, that's just, I don't know, like that can't be topped. Or like this past 2 weeks, I've been working at summer camp and I've been around a whole bunch of new kids, a couple of kids that I knew, even the ones that were not using verbal communication clearly, like would come up to me and like tapping me on the shoulder. And like I could tell that they recognized me and I could tell that they knew, oh, I know this person. This could be a great week at camp, sort of thing. And so that's just really special to be able to A, see that progress, but B, also build the relationship. Even if it's a short period of time, just have a moment in those kids' stories and in their line of progression and their development.
The last question we have for you today, Miss Kara, is
Well, I always try to sneak another
she
one,
always
so
sneaks in a few
go
more.
ahead with yours.
How has your career and what you do changed you as a person and also as a mom now that you have children?
People always say that because I'm a special education teacher, oh, you must have so much patience. But really, outside of being a teacher or a support person, like my personality is not necessarily having a lot of patience. Um, but working with these kids and having patience as a teacher and having patience as a one-on-one support person has definitely taught me of having more patience in my own personal life. I think it's also taught me a lot more empathy. Most of the kids that I work with have so much going on, right? They have maybe those sensory things, or maybe they have, communication difficulties or whatever it is. They have so much going on in the background. And what you see when they first present is not necessarily the whole picture. Maybe they, have food sensitivities and, they're going through difficulties with that and that's changing their behavior or whatever else. So going out into the world, when I meet other people, I'm like, oh, well, they probably have a lot going on in the background too that I don't necessarily see. They also have antecedents or things that are going on in their life that's affecting how they're interacting with the world. As a mom, when my kids are having behavioral difficulties, trust me, there are definitely times that it's like, oh, my kids, if you're a parent and you don't, you just speak with me and see what kind of voodoo magic you have. But it has definitely given me the skills of, okay, well, this is a consistent behavior that you seem to be struggling with. What do we as the parents or we as a family need to kind of put into place in order to make that behavior happen less often or to help you be successful with following the directions or to help you, not tackle your brother every 2 seconds or whatever it may be. We're still working on that one. Um, so I think having that background in, identifying different skills that need to be worked on and creating plans to develop those skills definitely helped me as a parent, being able to translate that to my own kid skills that they need develop.
I had a friend who said that his mom, when he was growing up, would help him label emotions. Now, he wasn't on the
Mm.
spectrum, but I thought this is brilliant for any parent. Like that, the kid is throwing a fit, and they don't know what they're feeling necessarily. And you say what you're feeling is frustration because you want that toy to work, but it's not working. Or what
Yeah.
you're feeling is envy because your sister got the last cookie or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
helping
yeah.
them label their emotions. And I think maybe for people on the spectrum, that's important too.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Because um be, because a lot of times communication is difficult, if you're trying to process what's going on inside of you or what's happening to you, you're already struggling with communication. If I'm giving you that scaffold of every time that you are exhibiting that emotion, I'm labeling it. I'm then giving you a tool of, oh, I feel whatever. And I have some kids that will, say, I feel sad, or we'll just say sad if that's their level of communication at that point. And then we at least have a starting of where we can go from there. Oh, you told me that you are feeling sad. Let's see if we can find something that's going to make you feel more happy. Or maybe we can find something that is going to make you feel calm if they're saying that they're upset. So that goes into the self advocacy skills of them being able to say what's going on with them, but then us being able to more clearly support them. And then ultimately working towards independence, them being identified, I am feeling X and I can choose, A, B, or C to help me get to a place of less frustration or, calmer or whatever their end goal is. Then we can transition away from being adult dependent on helping managing those emotions and transfer some of that to them so that they have more independent of being able to self regulate those emotions.
Do you have, as we wrap up, any recommendations for parents, like how to get services if they're just starting out, where to get help?
Yeah. So, depending on the age of your child, so if you have a kiddo that is 3 or younger or under the age of 3, um, you are going to be looking for your county's early start programming. Sometimes it's called like first steps. Sometimes it's called like early intervention. Usually a quick Google search of like early intervention program under 3 in your county name usually will populate that up. Um, Counties handle it differently, but usually you meet with somebody on a monthly basis, you get an evaluation and you get a program in place. And it's a family based program. You'll hear the term IFSP, that's an individualized family service plan. These early intervention programs really focus on a full family approach. It works on supporting the parent and helping the parent have specific skills. And then it also works on getting you plugged into the specific services your child might need. Maybe that's speech services, maybe it's occupational therapy services, physical therapy services. So they're kind of the bridge of giving parents support and helping get the parent plugged into the different community resources. If your child has had their third birthday or they're older, usually the school system is a great place to get started. If you are looking for some of those school based supports, things like speech, OT, PT, and things like that, there's often preschool programs depending on the severity through the school systems. um, they can also get you connected with if your child doesn't qualify for the services that they are providing. They can usually get you connected with, oh, those are not services that your child qualifies for us, but this agency in our community or this practice in our community would be the best resource. So often that school system can kind of help you get plugged in with what more hyper local if they are not able to provide the services are needed.
We appreciate your expertise. I feel like you could just talk for hours and hours, but we won't keep you for hours and hours.
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, I've raised a child, and there's things I learned from you that I wish I had known, and I'm gonna get that book and read it even now. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
Tell others about the podcast.
And for more information on today's guest, check out our show notes.
Until next time.